can't tell you what an exciting and even slightly surreal feeling it is to be here. It is my job as the director of a think tank to produce ideas, and as James, my loyal Chief of Staff, will tell you, who's here tonight, sometimes I produce rather too many ideas, but it's terrific when one of them comes off. So this is just fantastic tonight to see it come off. When I was appointed Executive Director, the Menzies Research Centre 2014, 7 years ago, I was struck by the carelessness, to say the least, of the fact that we didn't yet have a Prime Ministerial Library and Museum for our longest serving and, I would argue, greatest Prime Minister. And we were determined to put that right 48 years after his retirement. I was somewhat embarrassed today when Georgina reminded me it's now 55 years since his retirement. It's taken us rather a long time, but let me say in my defence, and this is to the credit of Josh Frydenberg, our guest speaker, and his team. Let me tell you, as somebody who's tried, it's a lot harder to get $7 million out of the federal government than you think. Particularly, and Josh will know this, the former recently retired finance minister had his own particular way of saying no, which is fantastic. But look, we've got there, and I think we got there because the strength of the case to honour our greatest Prime Minister and somebody who's had such an influence on post-war Australia was so good, and the fact that we had such a great partner in the University of Melbourne. And I just want to acknowledge the University of Melbourne for their great support of this. From the moment I went rather hopefully into Glyn Davis's office to put it to him, they recognised the importance of this, the importance for the nation, the importance for Melbourne, but also the importance for the University of Melbourne. Robert Menzies, of course, being their greatest alumni, certainly in my view, and a man who started his public life there, in that he committed to public life while he was at the university studying law more than 100 years ago, in that very room where we had that marvellous conference today, and finished his public life there half a century later as Chancellor. So there couldn't be a better home and there couldn't be better partners to work with. So thank you very much. And very quickly, because you're not here to hear me thank everybody, you're not here for an Academy Awards night speech, but I must mention a few people more without whom this movie would not have been possible. Many supporters, my board at the Menzies Research Centre, my three chairmen during this period, Tom Harley, who's here tonight, Kevin McCann, who can't be, and Paul Espy. And I will make special mention too of a couple more people, Richard Alston, who's here, and Nick Greiner, who was really a great supporter and helped get us on board. And there's been the generous support too from many supporters, private organisations, trusts, none more so than Charles Good at the Cormac Foundation. Thank you, Charles. And the many supporters of the Menzies Research Centre who backed this and backed it with money. So thank you. And finally, just two more people I can't step down without acknowledging, who've just been instrumental, certainly in making this thing happen. So one thing coming up with the idea, it's another thing to make it happen. And Tony Snell's in the room here, and Meredith Jackson, who can't be here, were instrumental really in that. So, and now I think the final, well, two thank yous. First of all, Josh, to a mutual friend of ours, a mutual very good friend of ours who texted me earlier this evening, Heather Henderson. Great lady and a fantastic mind. And when you talk to her, she reminds you of the wit and sometimes the cutting wit of her father. But she texted, "Very sad not to be with you tonight. I know it'll be a success. I'm so very happy about it all and grateful that Dad will be remembered in the right place. You've done a wonderful job. Hope I can see it before long. Heather." That's fantastic. Got a round of applause for Heather in her absence. One of the great. And finally to Josh. Josh is very close to Heather too, and thank you for that, Josh. I know it's very significant that we have Josh here to formally open this Robert Menzies Institute. I know from long experience that Josh is a very diligent and very gifted student of Robert Menzies. He takes the Robert Menzies legacy seriously. I think partly because he inherited Menzies' seat, in a sense, Kooyong, the seat that Menzies held for 33 years. I see, Josh, you've just passed a third of the way towards surpassing Sir Robert Menzies, which means you're probably almost due for that car parking spot at Carlton football ground. But you, in that time, Josh, in that relatively brief time, you've contributed so much on behalf of your constituents, on behalf of the Liberal Party, and on behalf of the nation in your service in your many roles in the federal government, and now, of course, as Treasurer and Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party in the House. But Josh, you always, I think, are a man who goes back to first principles, and for those first principles we looked to the inspiration of Robert Menzies and his philosophy about how a country should be run. These have been extraordinary and difficult times for you, Josh. It's the last couple of years. A lot of pressure, a lot of very difficult decisions to make with very limited information, but I've been impressed with your steady hand and the way you've always gone back to those first principles, and I think Menzies would have been proud of the way your first commitment through all this was not to great government largesse, much as that had to be done in the short term, but to the health of small businesses and the prosperity of individuals, and in that you're a true heir to the Menzies tradition. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Treasurer of Australia, Josh Frydenberg.